I'll invite your attention to Hebrews chapter 10 this morning. Hebrews chapter 10. Our text explains the greatness of Jesus Christ. Now, for those of us who have been in church all our life, that's kind of like, okay, I already know that. I understand that. But the book of Hebrews specifically deals with Jesus being the greatest of all. You know, back in the spring, Muhammad Ali died. You remember what he tagged himself as? The greatest. But you know, Jesus Christ is greater than Muhammad Ali could ever imagine being. Muhammad Ali is still in the ground where they laid him. Jesus Christ came out of the grave in his body 3 days after they buried him. Jesus is the greatest. But with that story of the fact that Jesus Christ could walk out of the grave on his own power, we have this morning a beautiful picture of how great Jesus is. He is greater than any religion could ever hope to be. He's greater than any political party could ever hope to be. He's greater than any world leader could hope to be. He's greater than any angel could hope to be. Jesus is the greatest. Hebrews spends time contrasting Jesus to all of these religious leaders and political leaders and all of those things. But this passage shows us that in his work, in his complete work, he truly is the greatest. You know, we live in strange times today. A lot of you sitting here today, as we are in our current situation, would scratch your head and think, how in the world did we get to this place in our country? How did we get to this place in our world? Well, it's simple, folks. We're fallen people. We're sinners by nature, and this is what happens when we do what we do. We have worry. I'm not that old. I may look like it, but I'm not much over 25, at least. What? I've not seen a political season like we're having. Decorum is gone. Honesty's gone. All the things that we would hope that we could choose from seem to be gone. But folks, that's the way of the world. What did you really expect? Back in the spring, Kenny Chesney came out with a song entitled Noise. I don't know if you're a Kenny Chesney fan. I don't know if you even know who he is. I heard this song one time in passing back in the spring, and I don't even know why, but I heard it. And Kenny Chesney said it's his commentary on today's world, and the title of the song is Noise. And I think that's a good title to illustrate. It's just noise. So much noise that it just becomes white noise and we don't hear it anymore. This song it's a little long what's written here, but listen to it. It goes this way. Wrecking balls, downtown construction, bottles breaking, jukeboxes buzzing, cardboard sign says, "The Lord is coming." Tick, tick, tock. Rumors turn the mills back home. Parking lot kids with the speakers blown. We didn't turn it on, but we can't turn it off, off. Sometimes I wonder, how did we get here? Seems like all we ever hear is noise. Yeah, we scream. Yeah, we shout. Till we don't have a voice. In the streets, in the crowds, it ain't nothing but noise. Drowning out all the dreams of this Tennessee boy just trying to be heard over all the noise. 24-hour television gets so loud that no one listens. Sex and money and politicians talk, talk, talk. But there really ain't no conversation, ain't nothing left but the imagination. Trapped in our phones, and we can't seem to stop this noise. Yeah, we scream, yeah, we shout till we don't have a voice. In the streets and the crowds, it ain't nothing but noise, drowning out all the dreams of this Tennessee boy, just trying to be heard in all this noise. Every room, every house, every shade of noise, all the floors, all the walls, they all shake with noise. We can't sleep, we can't think, we can't escape the noise. We can't take the noise, so we just make noise. Yeah, we scream, yeah, we shout till we don't have a voice in the streets and the crowds. It ain't nothing but noise, drowning out all the dreams of this Tennessee boy, just trying to be heard in all this noise. All this noise. Can't take the noise, can't take the noise, can't stand the noise, can't take the noise. I think he does a pretty good job of describing how our world is today. It's a lot of noise, it's a lot of distraction, it's a lot of worry. If you're not worried about the condition of our world today, I'm worried about you. There's fear everywhere. There's terror everywhere. But I'm here to tell you today that Jesus answers the noise. So this morning I want you to kind of leave the world behind those doors. I want you to take the worries and the things that are distracting your mind right now. I want you to leave them outside. Because today I want you to just focus on this one fact, that Jesus is the greatest of all. Jesus is our resting place. Jesus is that place to find peace. And Jesus' peace is a better peace than anything this world has to offer. Verse 5 of our text, Hebrews chapter 10, and I'm going to read down through verse 18. Says, wherefore when he there is Jesus. Wherefore when Jesus cometh into the world, he saith, sacrifice and offering thou wouldst not, but a body thou hast prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin thou hast had no pleasure. Then said I, and this is Jesus talking, then said I, lo, I am come. In the volume of the book it is written of me, to do thy will, O God. Jesus said, I've come to do thy will, O God, above when he said, sacrifice and offering, and burnt offerings for sin thou wouldst not, neither hadst pleasure therein, which are offered by the law. Then said he, lo, I am come to do thy will, O God. He taketh away the first, that he may establish the second. By the which will we are sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. Now that verse is kind of wordy. It says, by the which will. The which will there is the will that's talked about in the previous verses. It's the will of Jesus Christ, to do the will of the Father. Through that, we are sanctified by the body Christ offered for us. Verse 12 says, but this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down at the right hand of God, from henceforth expecting, till his enemies be made his footstool. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. Folks, one of the reasons that Jesus is the greatest is found right there. In his sacrifice, in his death, burial, and resurrection. The work is complete for your sanctification, for your redemption. Nothing else needs to be done. The work is complete, and he is sitting at the right hand of God, waiting until that day when he is crowned King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So that the whole history of mankind, the whole future of mankind, the whole universe can see that Jesus Christ is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Whereof the Holy Ghost also is a witness to us, for after that he had said before, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds will I write them. And look at verses 17 and 18. And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. You want to know why Jesus is the greatest? He forgives sins. He forgives sin like no other. Now, where remission of these is, there is no more offering for sin. You know, the reason that there is no peace, the reason that there is no comfort, the reason that people worry and fret outside those doors in the world is one reason: sin. Where sin is, there can be no peace. Sin indicates that there is a problem. In verse 4 of this chapter, you will see that there is a problem. There is no answer for sin, for it is not possible that the blood of bulls and goats should take away sin. You know there's no answer for sin. If you started today and you live the rest of your life perfect, and I know there's some people that kind of think they are living perfect, but we all see their life, don't we? So we know. But there's still sin. But there's even something that's deeper and greater than that. There's this separation that we have from Jesus Christ. We are alienated from Him. We are alienated from His peace. And I want to demonstrate that. I want to illustrate that this morning and show just what it is and how it is that Jesus Christ is the greatest. I need a volunteer, Nathan, if you don't mind. If you remember back in Genesis chapter 1, thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it. If you remember back in Genesis chapter 1, God, when He created all of this universe that we have, when He created it, He said this statement. He said, let us make man in our image. Let us create man in our likeness. So God created Adam, He created Eve, and God was like, whoa, Adam, He's pleased. He said the creation was good and that man was good. So God and Adam had fellowship. This is fellowship. You see, I'm representing God only because I'm the one giving the illustration. And He's representing man. But see, there's this likeness. God created man like Himself. He had somebody to fellowship with, and he told him, He said, Adam, you see all of this that I've created? Have dominion over it. And I just make it your home. Make it your place. You know, mi casa, you casa. And so He gave Adam this garden. He gave Eden this garden. And at the end of the day, it says, as you know, God would, He would come and He would say, Adam, how was your day? How was it? And Adam would say, you know, Lord, I like my peach tree over there. And so I put it over there, and I got my tomatoes here, my green beans there. He said, Lord, have you ever tasted sweet corn? Adam is experiencing what God wanted him to do. He created him in His likeness. He gave him a brain to figure out where he wanted his peaches and his green beans. He gave him the hands to do it. And so Adam and God are in fellowship. And Adam and God are enjoying their company. Because Adam is created like God. You remember Satan's temptation? The temptation wasn't for the fruit. Temptation, the fruit was the disobedience. See, God created Adam like himself, but what did Satan say? You shall be as gods. Adam, Eve, now I'm Satan. You have the opportunity to create your own identity and your own image. You can be as God. You can go over there and try to create your own likeness. How about that? So Adam, I'm God now again, Adam decides, wait a minute. Why should I be like him when I can be as my own? So what does Adam do? What do you do, Adam? Yeah. Adam decides that he wants to be his own image, his own likeness. And God said, wait a minute, you can't do that. You got to leave the garden. You got to go. And it's going to cost you a lot. See, part of Satan's temptation was, look, God's not going to execute you today if you decide to do this. Satan said, shall not surely die. If you look up that word, it has to do with like execution. See, death is not annihilation. Death is separation. When we place somebody in the ground, that's their body. They're still living. One of two places, depending on decisions that they made in life. And we'll look at that in a little bit. Death is separation. What is the second death? It's eternal separation from God with no choice to change that. First death is when we were separated. The second death is when people are cast into the lake of fire. But the great thing about God is when Adam now is over here separated from him, he says, I'll take care of this. I will take care of this. And so we see now, we come to our passage here, and we see that it tells us that Jesus becomes our sacrifice. History shows that God throughout history sent the message to us that he would take care of this. He sent Moses and the prophets. He sent a religious, for lack of a better term, way of demonstrating what Jesus Christ would do. And he gave us Aaron. He gave us men to write the Word of God. All throughout history, he keeps telling us, we'll take care of this. We'll take care of this. We'll take care of this. And so when Jesus gets here, he tells us, in the volume of the book it is written of me. I am the fulfillment of what God promised. Man tries to make religion the way to heaven. He worships things like angels. He depends on other people like Moses and the prophets to get him there, or political rulers, kings and presidents and whatever. But see, that's not the answer. In the volume of the book it is written. You know, when I was a kid, my dad would tell me things like this: son, Lawrences don't do that. Anybody, your parents ever tell you something like that? Lawrences don't do that. Or, son, I'm very proud of you. What you did was right and proper. In this book, that's what God is sending from heaven to us. One of the things that's very diabolical is to take that message that Adam, this is how you're supposed to act. This is what Lawrences do. This is what the child of God does and make that a legalistic thing. You know, the reason we don't lie is because God cannot lie, or we should not lie. The reason that we don't take God's name in vain is because He is holy, holy, holy. But also that demonstrates that we have a problem, because here is God living the way God should, and there we are separated from Him, trying to create our own identity, our own image, trying to get ourselves on track, and it's just not possible. But if you know the book of Hebrews at all, you know in the first chapter it says this: in the last days, in these last days, God sent Jesus. God sent His Son to us. And this is where we get to the point where Jesus is the greatest. Jesus is the greatest because in verse 5 of our chapter you see that He came in a prepared body. In verse 7 we see that He came to do God's will. And then in verse 10 we see that that will sanctifies us. And we know that the will of God for Jesus was to die in our place. So here's what happens. There's this separation. Up here is holiness, beauty, and perfection. Down there is noise and sin and worry. But see, here's what happened. Jesus was sent by God the Father to come down here and take on a body. We were created in God's likeness, and we decided that we wanted to create our own identity. So what did Jesus do? He came in a body like we have. A prepared body. A prepared body to be sacrificed for our sin. Here He is when He gets back, and our passage tells us He looks back to heaven and said, I'm in this prepared body. I've come to do your will, O Father. And so Jesus lives in this filthy, wicked world, when He should be in heaven, sitting on the throne, hearing the angels say, holy, holy, holy. And He comes down to this world and they mock Him and they slap Him and they spit on Him. Why? Because before the foundation of the world, before all of this was created, He knew that we would sin. But He still came to save us. It says that before the world was created, God developed the plan of salvation, and it was that He would come in our likeness and sacrifice that body prepared for Him. In that sacrifice, it says, in that will, in that desire, that Jesus Christ died. If you go back a chapter, you'll see that He was the sacrifice that nothing in this world could take the place of. Only He could bring our salvation, because He came from there to here. So He's in a prepared body. He dies on the cross. He comes out of the grave. He comes out of the grave victorious over death and hell. So now, with this gap being breached, with God coming to us, He offers salvation. And He says, do you want a relationship with me again? Do you want a relationship? Now, we either accept it or we reject it. The choice is yours. Of course. Salvation is now offered. The sin is gone. Do you see the beauty of salvation here? He was created in the likeness of God, but he didn't want that. Well, then He gets down here and He says, ooh, I don't want this either. But how do I get there? And so Christ comes to us, fellowship restored. But if you'll look, it says that there's a new covenant And the Holy Spirit writes in his heart those things that the Lawrences do, He writes those on the heart. And the transformation starts happening in the heart and works outward. Created in God's likeness. But watch this. What's the New Testament tell us? Transformed into the image of His Son. Now that, my friends, is a beautiful salvation. That, my friends, makes Jesus Christ the greatest person ever. Created in God's likeness, but here's the beauty of salvation, transformed into the image of His Son. Complete cycle. What a beautiful, thank you, Nathan. What a beautiful salvation. How does all that happen? How is that possible? Look at verse 17 and verse 18. This is amazing to me. And I've seen this, I don't know how many times. And I'm telling you, almost every time I read it, I just want to cry. And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. Only God can do that. All of the stuff that has happened in history that demonstrates man cannot create an image for himself. He cannot find himself. His self-image is rotten. But God, in the beauty of His salvation, brings the relationship back. And one day we will stand in that place of holiness and beauty again. And with God, it's just as if there was never sin. I don't understand that. I have had very close friends who have hurt me. Hard thing to deal with. And I honestly believe that I have forgiven them. I can meet them. I can have a coffee and a donut with them. And really there's no anxiety. But you know what? Still in my heart, I don't forget it. The hurt and the shame and all that we have done because of our broken relationship with Jesus Christ at the moment of salvation, He forgets it all. Just as if we had never sinned. Justification. That, my friends, is a man who is great. That, my friends, is a God who is the greatest of all. I will remember their sin no more. What a beautiful, beautiful thing God has done for us. He created us in His likeness. And we said, I think I want to be as a God myself. Folks, that perfectly describes our world today. Every person thinks that they're the beginning and the end of truth. Every person thinks that they know what they need to know. Every person tells you, well, that's good for you. You just do your own thing. I'll do my own thing. How's that working for us? But Jesus said, no. My family doesn't act like that. And I've got the answer. So He comes and He dies on a cross for us. He takes on our likeness. He takes on flesh, sacrifices that body in order that you could know and be transformed into the image of His dear Son. My friends, that's what God offers you today. That's the salvation that God brings to us. If you don't know about a relationship with Jesus Christ, all you have to do is accept it. Just like Nathan took my hand, Jesus is offering salvation today. if you want it. He doesn't ask you to change anything, only accept the gift that He provides for you. Maybe you're a believer here today and your relationship isn't as strong as it ought to be. I'm telling you, for Jesus Christ to do that for you and you to accept His salvation, it's a wonderful thing to be transformed into His image. Where are you in that relationship with Him? In just a moment, we're going to have an invitation. And in that invitation, just two things. Where's your relationship with Jesus Christ? If there's not one, today's the day of salvation. If you are in that relationship and you haven't been holding up your end of the bargain, today, come and commit yourself to that relationship. What family doesn't spend time together and grow? It's not possible. But for the family to grow, you spend time together. My question is, how much time are you spending with Jesus?